Hi, good evening, everyone. So we just concluded a very detailed session back in the speakers lounge, which I wish was the one which was the final one, but we need to have a similar session again. But so as told, the topic today is about the cost of human errors in inventory management and how we can leverage technology to minimize that. So we all know, especially in fashion retail, merchandising, I mean, spreadsheets don't really excel as far as accuracies, granularities, and standardizations are concerned. And they result in a lot of misses, even though that has been our bread and butter in the past, and to start with, all the businesses kind of rely on it. But now we are in a stage where we live in a generation where we have a lot of technologies available, a lot of intelligence available in the market, which we can leverage to reduce the impact on our businesses as far as inventory management or merchandise planning is concerned. So we will talk about that in today's session. And let's try to touch upon three main areas where this has a direct impact. Number one, the visibility part. So we start doing a lot of descriptive analytics where we just represent our existing data in different formats to understand what is going on. And the next stage to that is predictive analytics, where you kind of try to predict what is the future going to be based on the historical patterns. Then we have prescriptive analytics, where based on what you foresee coming in, you try to prescribe actions around it. And then finally, we are at a stage where we are also talking about generative analytics, artificial intelligence, and all those kind of areas where, in fact, the technology is expected to even create certain patterns which have never existed. So, so starting with the visibility point of view, I'll start with Saikat. So, Saikat, in your, say, not only in the current company, but your entire overall experience, so you coming from a creative background, so how do you think improving visibility or leveraging technology to improve visibility can result in reducing manual errors and improving the overall execution?
Sure. Thank you. See, I think, like you rightly said, a lot of things, if they were earlier around the Excel part of it. So from a design point of view, if you ask me, having data and having data visually, incited to us in dashboards has been a very, very, massive change for all of us. Couple of things I would say. The design creation itself, when we are starting off, the amount of inputs that we are getting is really, really helpful. We are actually able to, all of our teams now have actually moved into 3D design also. So the ability to actually see how a fabric or how a swatch will be looking, and the ability to take information and reviews and feedback immediately really speeds up the process for us, and the ability to take more thoughts and ideas into this process. Another thing we were discussing was the possibility of trialing. We all work with large businesses, and while we all want large sell-throughs, we also want to ensure that we have newness coming in. So the only possibility was to be able to get data and analytics, and then sort of, once you actually understand the sort of sell-throughs on pilots, and then scaling it up. So without this, it was quite difficult. Otherwise, design is a very subjective conversation, and it gets into that issue. And also another point, while we are now able to run different calendars. Like most businesses, large businesses, we will have, let's say, a year's calendar in advance. But the ability to do these really short calendars is mainly because of immediate availability of data, which allows us to design and create merchandise around these spaces. Hope that helps you.
Yeah. Thanks, Saikat. So coming to you, Pankaj Vermani. So you, in fact, were sharing one of the examples where you used visibility as a tool to bring in more accountability or more, streamline the process or get more people give more better quality outputs. So if you can share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think we are in the business of merging art and science together, right? And I think that's the most difficult part, right? How do you maintain the sanctity of art and ensure that the science of it is also, because just art will never build a business, and just science will kill the creativity, which will have to create the business. So one thing that we did was, and exactly what Saikat said, I think we have gone with the thought process of seed and scale, right? So you keep seeding new ideas, and the ideas that get, that come out basis the data which is making sense, you scale them. Now, how do you translate back that learning into the design teams is actually by far the biggest challenge that we have had, right? So while the business can understand all these challenges, business can understand and scale, how do you train the, the designers and people who are actually in the creative business to learn from this, and the next evolution of the product that comes will have the learnings from the previous evolution. That is the journey that we wanted to, kind of cross. And where it helped was that, as we were sharing, right, I mean, we started building some very interesting, so we didn't even go for dashboards. So what we did was we said that we have our own website where the entire catalog is there. Every designer would have their own login, right? In their specific login, they'll start seeing the speed of sale of the product, they start seeing the feedback score of the product and the return percentage of the product. Just 3 data points. Between these 3 data points, that's the real report card of the product that has come out for the individual, right? And all of a sudden, we could see, there are certain people who are celebrating victories and there are certain people who are who are feeling very sad about the product. And the next time, every morning now it has become a ritual where people will come and log in and see what is their report card today. And the moment that starts to happen, you see that there is a certain evolutionary process that had come into play on its own. So I think rather what we learned was that if I give people a dashboard and say, why did you go here and check out, nobody's going to go. But the very place where they are always present, I have started, I meaning us, you started presenting the source of truth there. And all of a sudden, there's no escaping the reality. And once they see the reality, they either celebrate, when they're successful, or they learn from it when they're not. And I think that's worked very well for us.
Yeah, and the great thing is that it has been well accepted as a culture also. I mean, people are taking that as a positive thing to improve on.
Correct.
So, yeah. So, Mr. Pankaj Kankar, coming to you, we were just discussing about specifically for your business, I mean, returns being one of the major pain points. So, can you share a few anecdotes how you have been able to, say, target your returns problem by bringing in more visibility on data?
Yeah. So one is, of course, how enriched is your catalog, right? What is the description?
Sorry, I think your mic is afar.
Okay. So one is the catalog, how enriched catalog are you generating, which would help users to better discover the product that they are looking for and see, if it is the product that they are looking for. And of course, videos and 3D model there help. The other is, of course, a lot into standardization of sizes. The size vary across various brands. And one of the big reasons for returns in online or e-commerce has been in the fashion lifestyle that size does not fit. So generally people order one size less, one size higher, and then you return to keep one. So if there is a better fitment, so we are also working on standardizing the sizes and then also leveraging some technology to sort of, identify errors in catalog and see. Then of course, we are experimenting with augmented reality, right, which is very different for each category. The way it would work, so before Reliance, I was with Lenskart and we had this 3D try-on, which really helped us to reduce return in the eyewear category. But the way it would work in eyewear versus the way it would work in jewelry versus the way it would work in fashion is very different. In eyewear, it was basically a section of face whose measurement and fitment but when it comes to fashion, it's almost like the whole body, this thing. So those are some of the things that we are sort of leveraging in terms of helping us reduce the return.
Okay.
Through visibility and better data and content.
Okay, thank you. So coming to our next member, if you can share your points wherever you have used technology to leverage better visibility in your business.
So in terms of my thought process, I think the visibility should be real time. The real time visibility should be is always important for any organization. And in terms of retail, I think it is one of the major tool for increasing the productivity and to decrease the human error and cost. So for real time visibility, I think the technically automation, the technology, using the technology and technical automation is really important. I mean, technical automation require, for example, we provide barcode scanners and RFID solutions. So this is the...
Sorry,
my voice is not visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it is audible? So I think for real-time visibility is more important for any kind of visibility for any business. I'm not only confined to retail, but for any business, I think real-time visibility is important. So for real-time visibility, you need to enable yourself with a lot of good automations. I mean, a lot of different kind of automations. So the kind of automation can be RFID, can be barcode scanning. You can put, because barcode is like for garment industry or for kind of a RFID is more suitable for different products. I think barcode is more suitable. So you can choose the technology, but I think this kind of technology is definitely going to be helpful for any kind of visibility, and visibility that to real-time visibility. So what is real-time visibility? With the help of the real-time visibility, you can not only manage your current inventory stock, and you can also create a better supply chain for your complete ecosystem, and you can also give a better experience to your customers.
I agree. So we have technology now, for the examples you're giving, RFID and barcodes, with which we can actually leverage the real-time updates.
Real-time data visibility.
React
For example,
faster.
if you are having, you want to see your stock label. For example, if you want to create the experience of the, after pandemic, actually, the customers are really, moving out from the physical retail stores and other things. It is, slowly they are moving drastically towards the online companies, e-commerce companies. So the customer behavior has entirely changed. Now you have to pull the customer. You need to create the experience much more better than early, actually. So for that, you do a lot of automations, and you do this automation will help you for customer experience, real-time visibility, and everything. Your inventory management, supply chain betterment. So I think it is really important to evolve, automate all of your process with this kind of technology.
Okay, thank you. So Dhiraj, coming to you. So with your business, I think, you've been leveraging a lot of BI analytics from the start of your business. You've been relying on a lot of data. So if you can share a few areas where it has actually helped you to reduce the manual errors.
So I think our business is a byproduct of two things, right? Whatever Campus Sutra is, it's a byproduct of one, the digital revolution that happened in India in about 2013-14 in fashion, and second, data. So all the four of us who started Campus Sutra, none of us come from fashion background. So when we approach any problem in business, whether it is in terms of planning the assortment, in terms of production, in terms of operations, in terms of gathering customer insights, everything is based on data. So that's like the starting point for us for taking any business decision or approaching any problem in business. So I think it's a cultural thing. Second, for us, what is very, very important, I come from Walmart, where I spent the initial years of my my career. And what I used to see in large organizations is that there's a lot of data and information. You also, but there's a huge drop off from the information data to insights one, and from insights to action. So if you start with 100, say 30, 40 gets lost in terms of translating it into insight, and then maybe another 40, 50 gets lost. So maybe only out of the data, if 100 things can be made, only maybe 10 get translated. So one effort that we have been putting in right from the beginning, as we have been kind of setting up this brand, is to ensure that whatever data, information, insight that is getting generated, how do we kind of convert it into business actionables and make it useful for business. Otherwise, बहुत ज्ञान होता है, काफ़ी discussion होता है. AI, for example, मैं 10 साल से सुन रहा हूँ, right? But before ChatGPT came, and I was just having this discussion with some of my friends here, actual business usage zero था. सिर्फ ज्ञान था, information था, लोग सब आके conference में बात करते हैं, but उसका business usage यदि किसी से पूछा जाए, reality में कुछ नहीं हो रहा था, right? So technology, information, data, all this is one thing, but how do you kind of make sure that it is in a form and in a format, and how do you have a culture in the organization which translates it into real business actionables? That's very important. So that's what we have been focusing on, and that's in a way the foundation of how Campus Sutra has been built.
Rightly said. So the representation matters a lot. So right representation of data, and the second point is of course the data entry, the garbage in, garbage out concept. So starting with that part, Agnes, coming to you because you have been, managing an entire brand end to end, and in parallel have managed to build a product of your own, homegrown solution, which was around making sure standards are maintained and data sanctity is maintained. So if you could share your thoughts on this.
See, I come from the, I come from various background of evolving Indian retail business. Now, one biggest challenge every businessman faces is, how am I doing? Is my data correct? Is a product selling? See, it's a complex ecosystem, especially in fashion retail. The creator is someone and selling is somebody else. So how do we bring in the thought process of what is there in the creator's mind up till that sales point is where data plays a critical role. What I call something is very foundation for any organization, which is basically a master data. How do you manage your product? As a designer, what all is thinking in their mind, or a buyer, what they are thinking in their mind, as long as it's captured in a form, then it can be interpreted in a various ways for our future decision-making process. So that's one thing which I kind of ensured in my business. Everything is in system so that it is not person dependent, it's system dependent. Even the person moves or organization, data is there. Any key decision you can take on your fly in a single click of the button. So that's how it's very important for especially fast growing brands, and it is helped in the recent times because D2C brands, one of the major success factor for D2C brands is the data what is available. The product attributes, which typically is very difficult to find in a traditional retail business. I think once everybody started focusing on the core master data, then your machine and AI will come and help you to interpret and give you the better output.
Yep. So that brings us to a second point of discussion, process. So after visibility, the place where we can leverage technology the most to reduce manual errors is setting up the right processes, setting up the right ecosystem for the businesses to operate. So relating to that, Saikat, coming to you, how has your experience, I'm asking this specifically because being from a creative background, I mean processes and data sanctity is not really priority one for say creative people. Sure. And generally, I mean, I might be wrong, but generally people shy away from investing time there. So what are your thoughts and your experience around it?
Yeah. So I always tell this that, from concept to consumer, it's a relay race. And the design team starts the race. In a strange way, while rightly said, I think during the creation process or the gestation process, there's not much technical input. Apart from, of course, if you look at Instagram browsing, that's also technical input today. But let's say the ideation has happened, the discussion has happened, the design is chosen. The moment the design is chosen and it's actually, going to get into the PLM, it is a design's job straight away. So firstly, the first data on a product is started off by the designer and the merchandiser after that. So therefore, huge, changes and, increases in the projects have happened now. Earlier, Excels used to be there. Now we have, PLMs. Now, PLMs talking to SAPs, all that stuff is happening. But I think the roadmap is pretty clear. Every product creation will happen through design and merch. So definitely affinity and understanding has to be clear. So I don't think without that anybody can work. Most of our businesses are now e-com driven also. So you can't continuously change the attributes after that. So that's definitely one part of it, which I would say is very important, the PLM part. Second is, for a designer, one is research, conceptualization, creation, and communication. These are the 4 steps that I look at. All 4 have equal, I think tech interventions. But creation itself, we are completely using tech. So none of us are actually working on legacy systems at the moment. One of the best parts is if you're using tech, you're able to scale, you're able to duplicate at a button versus doing other stuff, or trying to take one product everywhere and showing. During COVID, we were able to actually, do all our trade shows at the push of a button on an iPad. So definitely, teams have moved to those sort of 3D virtualizations, buying and everything online. So design teams are now geared up for that. And even in terms of communications, I would say cataloging and, generative AI itself is helping us in that space, but visual scanning, a lot of those sort of technologies are helping us create solutions. So like it or not, I think all of us are working in a technical environment. In fact, There is an internal discussion I had at one point of time. I said we are all digital tailors now. In the earlier days, we used to have a prototype making center, and actually that has almost gone now because we are creating those prototypes, right from the mind on the machines, and that's moving around everywhere. So I would say, fairly all of us are working in a very completely tech environment and creating data. We are the genesis of data for the product. And we also, we get the circular feedback almost routinely, every month at least, if not live. And so therefore, I would say we are embedded in that system. And I think these are the ways we are using tech to enhance our stuff.
So, Mr. Pankaj, do you agree with Saikat that it's easy to, I mean, his example just tells us that designers are actually very adaptive to technology, but my experience has been the other way around. It's good to know that, but do you agree with this, or do you see some certain challenges in explaining a creative person the actual implication of technology and how it can improve their lives?
I think it's been a journey. So for us, I think so we came from a very legacy business, right, where there were no footprints to follow, right? It's a very specific category which has its own set of challenges, which are very complex challenges. We have like 40 plus sizes in a typical product, right? So lingerie is not simple apparel business, right? So there were no benchmarks to follow when we started. So we said that a legacy business is to now be converted into a tech-driven organization, and that's how we started. With day zero, we were a tech organization. And I used to take a lot of pride saying we are a technology company which also makes bras, right? But that was a starting point which I took, and all of a sudden everybody would just stare at me and say, Kya matlab, what the hell? We are a bra company which makes bras. So I think what Saikat is saying, I'm completely aligned as of today. What I would want to reflect on is that there has been a journey to getting here. So 2015, when we started the brand, the journey started with the thought process where we were saying technology is going to be the key to our business. And there will be merchandising team members who would say, dude, it is happening on Excel. Why the hell do you need this, what you're asking me to do, right? And fast forward to today, and it's taken a lot of, soft conversations, hard conversations, shouting matches where he said, why do you want me to do this extra work? I don't want to do this extra work. And we would say that, 2 years later, you will realize, what the impact is. Today, when the same people are coming back and say, hey, can we add this new feature to the ERP? That is the moment of gratification for us. I think besides all the good things that have happened, I think that is probably by far one of the biggest victories of the organization, where I see people on the ground coming back with technical requirements and saying, hey, if you were to give me this one more SKU, I would be able to understand this better. And these are the people who were like completely averse to technology day zero. So I think it's an evolutionary process. So there is no disconnect, I think, in what Saikat is saying. This is where we are. But the journey has not been simple, at least for us, because we brought in people who were from the legacy ecosystem of lingerie making, which was probably, the most technical apparel product with the most legacy way of making it, I think, so it wasn't the easiest of journey. But today, I think, thanks to e-commerce, and, we started with e-commerce, but I think there has been a lot of evolution, a lot of learning for people, and thanks to things of AI, etc., where people started feeling that technology is cool as well. So the young, new age kids, when they are joining the bandwagon, it is way simpler for us to talk to them, right? When I'm talking of people who are like, my age, who I would speak to, they would never understand tech, and now they are talking tech, so the 20 plus is much easier to deal with because they're coming with the tech thought process day zero. But I think it's a beautiful time for the industry, is at least that's the optimistic view that I would have, that we are at a great place now. Of all that has happened in the past was much more difficult than what's happening today.
I agree. So coming to you, Mr. Pankaj Kankar, with you, the journey actually, you had a head start, I would say, because for an e-commerce company, a lot of standards are already set, a lot of data is already clean to start with. I mean, that struggle is already over, but most of the struggle lies right from the day you list a product to the day it actually comes back or goes to a customer's shelf. So where all have you, say, kind of used automations or used technology to more of streamline this process as well as reduce the manual errors which used to come when this activity used to happen manually?
Yeah, so one part, of course, as you mentioned, is e-commerce, and I would touch upon that, but I would also come to the overall fashion and lifestyle retail.
If you can come closer to the mic.
Yeah, so, in e-commerce, when we talk about automation, right from the cataloging and merchandising process, where generating, giving a visibility to our external partners and vendors, not just the in-house brands and products, that what is the demand going to be, and so prepare them for that production and procurement. To cataloging, right, where now we have brought in a lot of automation in cataloging. Some of it is fully automated and some of it is semi-automated, where it has helped us reduce the go live time and the amount of time people have to spend on putting the right catalog. We are also experimenting with technology where basis the image, you can generate the full catalog, the attributes, and now using generative AI to write much better descriptions of the product. And then of course from there, in terms of predicting the demands, forecasting the demands, the delivery time has become now more important, even in fashion and lifestyle. So the positioning and fulfillment decision, that we are also doing fulfillment from our stores, right? So when we are doing fulfillment from stores, we not only look at the offline demand, but we also look at online demand. And then what sort of inventory to position in what stores, and how to and where to fulfill it from. So all of this sort of where we have brought in a lot of technology on automation. But I briefly would also talk about backward integrations. Right? This is more like forward integration from catalog to the end consumer. But we also are sort of very vertically integrated company, right? Which basically mean that, what fabric to bring, what to manufacture. So right from the consumption to fiber journey is what we are calling it. Right to the fiber level, that what fiber our hydrocarbons company should produce. That is where now we are trying to automate it. So it started around 10, 15 years back, which was more manual and Excel and all those. Then we brought in systems and technology, which helped us replace them. But these systems were sitting in isolation in different phases. One thing for manufacturing, another thing for distribution, for warehouse. So it was still creating a very siloed view, or the latency between feedback loop was very high. Now we are trying to bring in technology to build an integrated fiber to retail journey. And that would sort of, help us reduce the turnaround time and as well as bring efficiency in all stages of this supply, the forward as well as the backward supply chain.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just borrow one point from your conversation. So Saikat, I guess you also tried or explored few of the technologies which are doing image detection to arrive at the attributes and say other things, other product information. So how accurate is that? Has it actually worked out for you? Do you see that being the future?
So I think firstly with technology, everything is continuously WIP and work in progress. So firstly, I think if I look at attributes itself, I think we went through a complete cleanup of our master database anyway, because what used to happen earlier, people were inputting data. So to move from input to actually selecting, that was the first part we had to do. We worked against different providers. We are internally working with image recognition and looking at attributes and matching the image. That's definitely there. And I think it will 100% happen because firstly is the training part. The second part is the inputting part also we will actually influence so heavily that it's not going to go very far off. If we open this up to consumer, then there's an issue because you will have a lot of issues with the type of data which is coming in. But internally, merchants and designers will be trained to tell you what sort of things that you should be putting in based on what will be fitting. So I think that definitely will happen. I think what we are also doing with image scanning, I mean, a lot of other things are also happening. We are, for us as a company, we look at textiles quite a bit. We are actually working on that side itself, not just garment itself, the styling. So, but I guess some of this will take time, but it will happen. Generative on the other side, where we are working on prints and surface ornamentation, that's something which we've already tried. I think it'll take some time to scale up, but I think it should happen. And so I see huge potential there. But you could say I'm a tech optimist in a design environment. So therefore take it with a pinch of salt.
Okay. So, Dhiraj, coming to you. So, you have had, say, a very different experience as far as setting processes is concerned because you came in or started with a point of view of just building from scratch, not going by, say, how things have been happening in the past. So, if you can share your, say, what outcomes have you gotten out of that approach and where all did you reap the benefits?
So I think two things have happened. One, when we started, the entire e-commerce was just happening, so to say, right? I remember those days when the Flipkart delivery guy used to come for a pickup, and if he had to pick up 400 orders, he used to come with a paper, and then look at the order number and tick mark. So it used to take him like 6-7 hours to just tick mark and pick up the product. And very honestly, we were the first brand who went to Ankit Nagori, who used to be the CBO that time of Flipkart, saying that boss, this process is broken and you have to work on it. And in the West, this is available. Why are you not doing it? And thankfully, they did it in a couple of months. So same thing. Increff, when in fact Increff was starting, I think first 2-3 months was spent in our company to understand our process and build a product for the e-commerce market for fashion, right? Because it was still evolving. A lot of people were still kind of setting up the process, thinking what has to be done and things like that. So it was very exciting, but we had to in fact build a lot of technology because not too much was available in the market. Without naming companies, we've tried everybody, and their products used to be so primitive that, I'll kind of reserve my comment on that, right? So it has been a process. But the other good thing that has happened now is, and what keeps us really excited, is that the industry is very dynamic. And especially for a brand like us, which works with a lot of partners, right? So say Ajio has a certain process, Myntra has a certain process, Flipkart has a certain process. We work internationally with some brands which are at different parts of the journey. So we actually see how the market is evolving, what is happening in the industry and things like that. And also it is changing a lot. So Ajio of today or Myntra of today is very different from Myntra of last year. And it will be very different of Myntra of next year, right? So when your systems and your processes and your product and your technology has to talk to them, right? You have to be always on your toes in terms of understanding what's happening in the market and having that flexibility to kind of, make your system talk to your partners and make the whole thing work. So I think that's something that has been very, very exciting for us.
Yeah. So coming to the final part and the most important part, the execution bit. So you get the visibility right, you get the data source right, you get everything right. When it comes to execution, very heavily reliant, people dependent executions generally have a higher failure rate. I mean, there's a lot of data to back that up, and all of you would have had experiences around it. So if you can share, if I would love to have people volunteer here, if you can share any anecdotes or any places where you've experienced this inconsistency or inaccuracies coming in because of manual execution which you have fixed or achieved better results with automations.
Maybe I can.
Yeah, Pankaj.
I think I'll go with a very interesting example. In our business, the biggest challenge is size ratios, right? So it's always a bell curve, right? So there'll be certain sizes which will sell a lot, and then there'll be like huge, bigger, smaller sizes, which will be a long tail, right? And that long tail is the sizable chunk of your dead inventory per se, right? Because you will end up making in a certain specific ratio, and so people will say, okay, non-padded bras will be made in a certain way, padded bras will be made in a certain way, and you'll all of a sudden start realizing that the patterns are absolutely off, right? So we said this is one most basic area where we can automate, and that automation can go a very long way in terms of managing our inventories, right? So we built something which was, so I was talking about that we have a system called the Monk, which is like the sensor with the sixth sense. So the Monk was created for a size ratio planning engine. And the engine, what it would do is, it would take a product, see if it has a critical mass of data, basis that it will create a size ratio. If it doesn't, it will start then it will move out. If I don't have data enough, then probably I'll group similar products and start going outwards. It was nothing fancy. We said, let's start just with big data to start with. And we had to really tell the team that you will stop doing size ratio yourself, let the system decide. And the patterns that emerged were phenomenal, and all of a sudden we saw our inventory turns change completely, like it was out of the park. So what happened was we realized that certain sizes with certain color codes are selling with certain set of customers. And all of them have a certain, age group with a certain sizes, right? So all of a sudden the brighter colors, for example, right, would appeal to, let's say, a younger audience, which has a certain size ratio which works. So the moment you went down to product level, right, all of a sudden you were able to take a much more granular approach, and all of a sudden your business changed completely. And this is one example of how the business changed completely just by one change, right, where we said let's completely take manual intervention off and only use automation. And that's I think has worked wonders for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Agnes?
Yeah, just to add, see, we are a business of large-scale department store business. We have about 700 stores. See, one of the biggest challenge what we used to do, we used to have is the merchandisers, whenever any stock comes in, they just take top 20, 30 stores, just dump the stock. Other stores doesn't even get any stock. So what is happening is there are two issues. One is my best stores are always overstocked. My worst stores are always understocked. So we want to break this. So we introduce a concept called auto allocation, where any new product comes in, system automatically identify what is the gap in my store, what store, how much gap. It only sends to store where there is a gap. It's kind of reduced huge inventory pressure for in our business, and the throughput is increased across all the channels. I think when the business is scaling at scale, large number, where that is when you should start looking at automation, because relying on people will create a huge impact in a long term, especially where high inventory, high cash flow issues. Automation will really help.
Yes.
That's actually really helped for us. Now we have about 750 shop-in-shop counters where we have to manage entire inventory by ourselves, and the replenishment as well.
Absolutely.
So-
As and when your point of sales increase, your SKUs increase, the
Yeah.
complexity of business increases. And for a manual effort, I mean, from a person point of view, it's very difficult to have an eye on so many data points and taking a call.
So as a technology enabler, actually, we have also, we are fully, I think, whatever we are discussing, all of us, as a technology enabler, we can understand the whole thing. I mean, so it is not only like we have given many solutions to many retail organizations, not only online, offline, both. I mean, for both the things. I think in both the things, one thing is very important, that is the traceability of your, or you can say visibility of your complete ecosystem. Okay, ecosystem in the sense, it is not only the supply chain part, it is the supply chain part, the logistics, inventory, in-store delivery, the in-store experience, and for example, with the help of the technology, we have also automated some stores where, you can understand which, if, per which product, you have how many stocks in your, in your particular store. Or you can also, look at the complete, location, where exactly it is lying. If the stock is there, it is in which rack. So you can also guide the customer to have, the complete details about the pricing. For example, I'll not name the customer, but one of our customers, we have given some solution where they can, wherever they are scanning the product, they can see the entire, with the picture, they can see the entire thing in that particular, about the fabric, about the complete, kind of a description of the product, sizes, everything they are getting in one page. So I think that kind of automation is really important for any kind of organization. So it is, offline, online retail is not only confined to kind of a, having the back-end operations or front-end operation. I think that traceability is really required, where I think we are helping many customers, to many organizations.
Yep. So I'm sure, I mean, not only in the panel, but in the audience also, all of us are now aware that we have technologies for each problem statement. It's just the right fitment we need to look out for in the right places. But since we are already up with the time, so I'll just, with a final closing question, I'd like to, if anyone would want to volunteer. So when technology starts coming in different places, which used to be done by people earlier, I mean, how do you think freeing up that time, freeing up that bandwidth of those people, is it actually something which people should be scared of, or is there some other use of that bandwidth which anyone can make?
I think when computers came in, right, all of us thought that, all the jobs will go. That has not happened. So I think the role of human being is not going to go away. That's my personal belief, right? And many times what technology provides you is input. What you do with that is to a large extent, that human factor. I'll just give an example, right? Initially, when we were very small, And especially in this fashion industry, you have a lot of norms that itne color hone chahiye, itne ye hone chahiye, itne styles hone chahiye. We took a call that we will make styles only with what data tells us. And एक छोटा सा डेटा था कि 3/4 का सेल थ्रू, and this is 6-7 years back, was 3 times that of full or half. And I'm sure the same data was with everyone, but nobody took action. And when we did that, we saw that there was a huge difference in sales. So, matlab, having data technology is one thing, but translating it into business success is something else.
Okay. So for the lack of time, I'm sorry, apologies. For the others, we'll definitely have a conversation after this. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.